I try to record as little bullshit as possible so I don't have to edit as much after.
Oh, okay.
But we're live now. What is up, everybody, and welcome back to Verbally Challenge. I'm HarikenBx, and I got a couple of friends here with me tonight, so let's say hello. Back with me from last week's show, I got Ty Prime. What's happening tonight?
Hey, I'm Ty, and I'm a pretty nice guy. I'm purely Canadian cancer. Oh, but I try. I'm trying out this new singing intro thing. It's kind of working for me. I like it.
Is it?
I thought it was. I never got feedback when I did it last time. Whatever. What's up? I'm Ty. I'm from Stasis Lock. Thanks for having me, Eric, and I appreciate it.
No problem, man. No problem. You guys are always welcome. Back with me again, also from last week, Dakota. What's happening?
Hey, everybody. Just hanging out.
Nice.
Doing the Lord's work. I don't know what you... But hey.
The Lord's work. I like that. All right. To complete the Stasis Lock trifecta, I got the host himself, Bricks on the Dollar. What's happening tonight, Clutch?
Hey, everybody. Apparently, I missed Verbally Challenge last week. That's okay. I've been on Verbally Challenge before. I was secretly being recorded during a Gundam talk one time. I didn't even know you had a show, and then you're like, "Yeah, we talk a Gundam, and I was recording, and you're in it." I was like, "I'm in what?" That's okay. I'll sign the waiver.
Now, okay, Jose, real quick between us, do they get paid as much as I do?
Can't release that information, man. You know, come on.
I just wanted to ask before we continue.
Got to keep that under wraps, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, Bricks, that was way back in episode 2. That was the early days of the show. I wasn't even trying to promote it then. I was still trying to kind of figure out what I was doing with it, and it just evolved as I hoped it would. So hopefully the people out there enjoying it. All right, I wanted to have you guys on tonight because I'm sure you guys have an interesting perspective on a recent release that just came out. So just to get started, Masterpiece Dinobot was just released over in Japan. And in my opinion, just real quick, this figure is absolutely gorgeous looking. You know, I think it really does the job of looking the part of the character in both robot and dino mode. I think this is the third Beast Wars Masterpiece to be released, not counting like the repaints that they've done. So before we get to Dinobot, what is your opinion of the Beast Wars MPs that have been released so far?
I'll go first. I think they're fantastic. They're nailing the show aesthetic with the tune accuracy, and it's beautiful. Like, it is like they just jumped right off the screen into my hands, onto my shelves. You know what I mean? And I couldn't be happier.
Yeah, I agree. I think they're really capturing the robot mode. The beast mode is pretty good on all of them. And it almost seems like the engineering has to be extremely challenging and high-tech for these. Even though a lot of them are two-legged or four-legged animals that basically stand up, somehow the engineering has to be what I feel is leaps and bounds beyond a rectangle turning into a different rectangle.
I would also, I'm definitely in the same boat as these guys. Totally unbiased, of course, but the Beast Wars Masterpiece is really pushing the envelope of Takara's engineering muscle flexing. Because, we see that kind of going forward, especially with Sunstreaker. I don't know so much about Hound, but let's not focus too much on those. But you see that, like, you see how they're definitely evolving from not just an engineering standpoint, but from a production standpoint. With this new method of painting, actual sculpting is coming back. It's not just smooth lines anymore. You know, the beast modes, they're about 85 to 90%, depending on which figure you have. But it's like that's my margin of acceptance for it, because for me, I'm a robot mode guy. Granted, I have all of them in doubles, well, triples actually, but to see like what I got from the show, because they spent so much of their time in both modes to have that show accurate all around and down to their transformation. You know, it's nothing strays from anything from the show, and it's just these three have just knocked it out of the park, and I look forward to seeing how Takara evolves from that.
What I'm interested to see is with the Megatron upcoming, because all of his armor pieces in robot mode are removable, but it's reported that it's still going to transform perfectly fine without removing a single piece. And I think that's a really interesting bit of engineering alone that they're testing. And I feel like it's going to work out really well for them because that Megatron looks flawless.
I do agree, and that's actually pretty good news because I know, I don't know how you guys feel personally, and me, I personally don't care, but like I know maybe some people were upset that those bits come off him because it could be construed as parts forming, and it's cool that they're giving you kind of like the pre-Earth mode that you kind of saw on the ship real quick in those first few seconds in the first episode. So I dig that. Like that's pretty cool.
It's also it's not necessarily just that. It's literally that one thing from that one scene where he was like in his bathtub brushing the teeth on the dinosaur head. He had the shoulder armor. He had all that armor removed, and it's like they would pay that much attention to detail to something so menial.
I definitely don't need that gimmick, if you want to call it a gimmick. I don't need what is it called? The relaxed mode. I don't need that at all. I'm one of those people who thinks it's bad that he can be former because I don't want anything to befall the Beast Wars MPs like that. Like I don't want any scandal.
But see, that's kind of where I differ in opinions with you, is because I don't think it is going to be a parts former. I think it's going to have the option to take them all off, and whether it's a gimmick or not.
I don't think it's going to be a parts former. I don't want anyone else to think it is.
No, it doesn't matter what other people think.
Yeah, and just the fact, Ty, like you said, you could do the transformation with all those bits on. So in that regard, that should make everybody happy because it's not like I said, it's not a parts former because of that reason.
Exactly, and it's just Takara flexing their muscles again, showing all the other companies out there who's boss.
Yeah, I think it's a nice option to have. And then Clutch, I was going to say to your point, like just in concern of the pieces that have already been released, like in my opinion, I don't own them. I haven't gone in on the line, but I'm really thinking about doing it and kind of regret it because Primal, I know you could get it, but his price is a little inflated and Cheetos.
They're reissuing the Primal.
Yeah, Primal just is getting a reissue.
It just got a Chinese reissue that comes with a coin, and it's also getting a Japanese reissue around the same time that Megatron drops.
Yeah, I think in January it's supposed to be re-released. I did see that. So if you want to get them right now, you have to pay about $140 or so, which is a little bit higher than I'd like to pay. But from what I hear, he's completely worth it. And just my impressions of those figures, just by their look, they look great in robot mode and their alt modes, their beast modes, and just the fact that they're based on organic animals. And these are figures, they're toys, and they have to do both modes. I think Takara did a great job of doing that.
I'm also really happy that I didn't have to wait 7 years between my Optimus and my Megatron. That was something with G1 Masterpiece, like between MP10 and MP36. Wow, that was a stretch. It's only going to be what, a 2.5, 3 year wait between Primal and Megatron.
It's not bad at all.
Well, something that speaks to the credit of the Beast Wars figures too is I think they made a really good choice with going with the faux chests, the faux heads on the chest, because you have to emulate what you saw on screen. And when they were on screen, they cheated quite a bit as far as the CGI goes. So with the faux chest, it doesn't hinder transformation whatsoever. But like when you go from beast mode, which is almost 100% accurate across the board, like Cheetor is with the exception of the hind legs, Primal's with the exception of his legs as well, and Dinobot with the exception of pretty much his whole undercarriage. But you go from the perfect sculpting of the beast mode, and then you transform it to the robot mode, and because they're using the fake chests to have that accuracy to the show, it's like I said, it's like they just stepped right off the screen, and I think that was the best decision that they ever made with going with these Beast Wars Masterpiece is the fake chests.
It's funny though, even with the fake chest, like the actual beast mode heads are behind those fake chests for both Cheetor and Dinobot.
Yeah.
Where they end up resting. It's a fake chest, but it's there. It's still properly there. I think.
Nice.
Well, actually, some I wanted to ask you, Hariken, because you're a G1 fan, right?
I love it all. I'm a Beast Wars fan as well.
For sure. But you collect G1, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Are you on board with the cartoon accurate reissues that are coming out? Because like you got a Wheeljack coming recently, you had a Prowl come out, and I feel like the popularity behind how tune accurate the Beast Wars ones are is kind of inspiring doing the more tune accurate versions of the G1. Are you on board for that, or do you like your more modernized? It's still G1, but more modernized versions of G1.
I mentioned on the last episode of BTM that I'm kind of 50-50 on it because I very much like that Masterpiece Sunstreaker and its aesthetic and the way it transforms and the engineering. Like it's a very good piece in my opinion. But I do like the old Masterpiece aesthetic where it's the old school alt modes and stuff, but they are kind of updated versions as far as like the robot modes, kind of like the perfect mix of the cartoon and real world in a way, you know. So now, you know, with doing the tune accurate stuff, the Hound kind of stuck out to me because of the Fans Toys version we already got, and I feel like that Fans Toys version, as far as aesthetic, not in transformation or engineering or anything like that, but just the aesthetic of that figure being on a shelf, it fits in perfectly with the masterpieces that we had gotten released thus far. And now that they're going with the more tune aesthetic, like I'm going to get that Hound just because it's a different figure. The engineering is going to be different. I'm interested in checking all that out. But the look of it is like, man, like it doesn't fit in with the stuff that came before. And to me, I also said they're sending a mixed signal because we already got the MP plus Prowl. We got the MP plus, I think they released Sideswipe again, I think with the different
Sideswipe
windows.
and Red Alert.
Red Alert.
Yeah.
And now we're getting the Wheeljack, and those are still in the old school aesthetic, even though they're changing up the colors to be a little bit more tune accurate. The aesthetic hasn't changed really. So to me, it's like a mixed signal. Like it's not enough just to change the colors. Like if you're gonna go tune, then go all the way. Give me a new Wheeljack. Give me a new Sideswipe. Like just
you never go full
all
tune.
But do you think it would be worth it for them to reinvent the same figure again? Just for the sake of, you know what I mean? For the sake of these paint apps that would make it more cartoon accurate.
I mean,
do you think it'd be worth it for them?
For them, it's not going to be worth it when they already have the sculpts there for the old ones and they could just repaint it. And, you know, and of course, the characters we haven't gotten before will be new molds. I understand, you know, the company has their bottom line to worry about. So
I think if they weren't so deep into it, they probably would. But like the Sideswipe and Red Alert tune accurate decos, I think worked. Like even Prowl, I think worked. But Wheeljacks, like it's definitely got that more realistic, very like maybe if the toy got the masterpiece treatment and not the tune character.
Exactly.
The paint helps, but it doesn't, you know. But even like you said, I don't see them allocating those resources to making another Wheeljack mold when it's all already there. You know you're kind of closing in on your 84 Autobots. So.
Well, personally, I kind of see it as a toss-up because they're redoing Optimus Prime, and he's going to be tune accurate all across the board. So if they're going to do that, what is to stop them from redoing a Wheeljack or redoing a Sideswipe and Red Alert? Because if it's popular enough,
Optimus Prime or Wheeljack.
That's true, but what else is more popular? A shelf with characters of the same aesthetic, or you got some from this aesthetic, some from that aesthetic. You know, everything's kind of a mashup. Put your IDW Optimus Prime beside your Masterpiece Sunstreaker and call that your G1 cast, right?
Yeah, I do see them redoing some of these characters, the more popular ones. You know what I'm saying? Like they've released a Starscream. Like I could see them redoing that, or maybe redoing like a Soundwave. Characters that they probably know are going to sell, like because eventually, you know what I'm saying, like the technology gets better, you know, engineering gets better, and we're gonna see better versions of these.
I mean, look at those Make Toy Seekers. You mentioned like Starscream. It's like if I was collecting MP and I missed out on the 11 mold, I probably would pick up the MP11 for the Coneheads. But like the new Make Toys, Starscream, Thundercracker, and Skyward, like I would go with that, and even if Takara did redo Starscream for the third time, I'd ignore it, you know?
Yeah.
So with the Beast Wars stuff, I guess some of you guys already said it, but does you figure that the quality, in your opinion, like equals what we've gotten from the G1 releases, or even surpasses them? Maybe.
I feel it surpasses for sure. The engineering alone for these figures has to be spot on to get the representation in both modes the way that they are. Not to mention the sculpt work.
The textures.
The textures on this Dinobot it's bar none some of the best sculpt work I've ever seen in figures all across the board. The details on it, like people were giving it a bad rap for how much it was going for. And I can tell you right now, I didn't pay the $250 price, but for anyone that would be paying that, this is a worthwhile figure for that price. I won't dispute that.
All right, we'll get there. We'll get there. So, all right. So, with the Masterpiece Dinobot, since he's the new release and you guys just got him, let's go round robin. Just give me your first impressions when you got the piece in hand and you just removed them out of the box. First impressions right out of the box.
Tyler, we heard yours.
Yeah. The first thing, when I got my box in the mail, I brought it upstairs and I opened. I was so happy with it. Like Chris got his before mine, and he just took a picture of his stupid face with the box and he sent it to us. So I did the same thing. I took the box is really big. But when I opened the figure up, I cut the tape, I opened it up, and I slid out the plastic prison portion of it. The first thing I said was, "This guy's fucking huge." And it's a big, hefty fucking figure. That was my first impression. I couldn't believe how big it actually was.
My first impression came like while they were still in the shipping boxes. Like I went to the back of the DHL truck because I couldn't wait for this driver to bring it to me. Like I had to get it. I had to get my hands on it. Like she hands me the boxes and I was just like, whoa. Like it was. I didn't know I had to, like, I didn't expect them to be that heavy.
Pull the muscle.
Yeah, man. Like, and then similar to Tyler, man, like I got all 4 of them out and then I stacked them on top of each other, the boxes. I was like, Jesus, but opening it up, I just took in a smell, that, good stuff.
That new plastic smell.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. And then just picking it up, the heft. And all the sharp bits on it, like the toes, the little toenails. Like you could kill somebody with his feet just alone.
Or his fingers.
Yeah, or his fingers. It was definitely a wow moment because Dinobot's my favorite character. So Primal and Cheetor, those have been awesome. But to get my favorite and then for it to be all of this stuff just right here. It was kind of surreal, man. It's like I even mentioned it on Stasis Lock. Like I say never. It's been a long time since I've been satisfied with a toy purchase where I'm just like, I don't give a shit what's coming in, for the next 7 months. But that's where I'm at with it. Like I'm not looking forward to the next mail day.
Yeah, it really hit the mark. You know what I mean? And it's like when you have a really nice steak dinner. You know what I mean? When you get to it, you're hungry, you're chomping at the bit, you smell it, your mouth's watering, right? But then when it finally arrives, you take that first bite, that first impression. And something I wanted to add too was like in the plastic casing, on top of how big the figure was and how long the tail was and everything, staring at you are 3 other different face options for the figure. Yeah. And that right there gives you first impression of what the rest of the figure is going to look like. And the face sculpts are painted perfectly.
They're freaking huge.
They're huge.
Like I was like, oh my god.
But they're painted and detailed so perfectly, right? So that was the first bite. And then after transforming it and then just displaying it and taking pictures of it and moving, like, you know what I mean? Seeing what the whole thing's about. It's like eating that steak dinner, going home, sitting on the couch, just putting your arms up and feeling satisfied. That's what I got.
But it's like it's a steak dinner that took 18 months to like you've been smelling the steak for 18 months on the grill and you finally get to bite into it and it's juicy and perfect.
Yeah. No, I agree.
That's good. What about you, Clutch?
My first impression was, again, that it was so big. It was almost like a different scale than the last 2 Beast Wars MPs. Once you open the box and, like Tyler said, the 3 other faces are staring at you, it's like silver dollar size, this guy's head. It's big. And I have to say my first impression getting him out of the plastic was how unstable he is in Raptor mode, which was a negative. I hate to... Well, no, I'm that guy. Never mind. It was how unstable he is in Dino mode, and that's why he comes with this gargantuan action base. And I was looking forward to getting him transformed because I knew I wouldn't keep him in Raptor mode, but it's a little upsetting that your options are limited in Raptor mode. At least I think so. I didn't give it that much time though.
Okay. But I'm happy they gave it a stand because they knew that already. Like if they were to give us the figure without the stand and it was that unstable, we'd be more disappointed. I'm glad they thought ahead and they were like, you know what? This isn't going to work on its own. We need to do something extra for these guys so that they can enjoy it in both modes the way it's supposed to be enjoyed.
And that's the thing. I don't even use the stand for Dinobot. I put my Supreme Commander Primal on it, so he's flying or whatever.
Yeah, and it's cool because not just for stability, but I'm sure for like the toy photographers out there, like that stand helps when reenacting scenes,
for dynamic posing for sure. Yeah.
So that's awesome. All right. So with the first impressions out of the way, what are your overall thoughts on the piece itself? Pros and cons with the figure thus far? I know it hasn't been too long, but so far
we definitely touched on our cons on the show. At least I went out there first. There aren't that many. That's why I wanted to look at the cons for him first. I want to say the biggest con is that he feels like he's going to be fragile. At least to me, I'm not having a very good time trying to put him in different poses because I think he feels fragile, or I really don't want to break him. And maybe that's because of the price, but to me, it's a little bit scary.
And it's to kind of go off of that, like it's no secret I bought multiples, and there's one that I absolutely manhandled just to see. Like I just wanted to see, worst case, like I'm pretty handy when it comes to repairing figures. So like worst case something would happen, I'd have to repair it. Like yes, that is a $200 piece, but I had to see if it was actually from a quality standpoint, was it worth $200? It was absolutely worth $200 because I've letting it take a dive, I've letting it fall over, everything I could do to
well, you frivolous with your money.
Well, I mean, it's just like
throwing that shit off shelves, tossing it off balconies and shit, running it over with your dog. I ain't doing none of that shit.
Like if someone ever said in an argument, oh, it's a fragile piece of junk, then I could say, no, it's not. I've done everything to make sure.
That's interesting, dude. So wait, so you bought multiples? Is that one of the reasons why? Like just to have one that you could abuse like that?
No. The reason I bought multiples was I bought 4. I bought one to keep sealed in box, hopefully get it signed. I bought one to display in beast mode, one to display in robot mode for the Masterpiece shelf. And then the fourth one rather, because I'm a Dinobot fan, I have a separate Dinobot display. And that's where my Code of Heroes storyboard is, my prototypes, the various Dinobots that don't necessarily belong with the showcast. Like I keep the Telemoka over there, and so I put the other 2 Dinobots, elsewhere. Oh. But that's the reason I bought so many. And I did have one that was faulty, and that's one thing that I will say, like as a con, the assembly rate on these isn't the best. And it came out of a Hot Toys factory, so be that as it may, you come to your own conclusion there. At least in my experience, it's a 33.3% chance that you may have one that had a misaligned ratcheting joint on what's essentially, or what's definitely not a crucial joint. Like it's not going to ruin the posability of your figure. But that is something to kind of take in mind. It wasn't just that one piece. There's been a few reports so far, and I'm sure we'll see more as the people who bought from U.S. retail start to get theirs in the mail. I believe they'll be getting theirs like this week or next week or something like that.
Next month sometime.
Yeah. If you ordered from TSC. As far as cons go, like that's it. And the only con I have is that the thing's covered in ratchet joints. And even in some places where maybe it doesn't need them, but I'm not going to complain. But if they would have put ratchet joints in just 2 more areas, even if it didn't have to be the actual real clicky ratchet joints, but the fake pressure ratchet joints, it could use it in the ankles in both dinosaur and robot mode. Other than that,
I feel like that would have fixed a lot of the issues. But I feel like this figure would have benefited a lot more from softer ratchets, especially like in the knees. The hips aren't so bad, but the shoulders most definitely. Oh, now I'm not talking about the transformation aspect of the shoulder. I'm talking about the actual shoulder under the golden shoulder pad, because the only 2 cons, or I guess 3 cons now, because of the soft ratchets thing, would be the other 2 are I wish that the shoulder, because what it does is it ratchets down from the top of the shoulder. It ratchets down. And it just kind of sits there. And I don't know if it was left like that on purpose so you could get a little bit of extra articulation out of it or what. But the way it is, because the shoulder underneath the shoulder pad, that joint is so tight, it torques the transformation joint because it doesn't clip in underneath, like under the arm, like where the armpit is. It doesn't clip in there, and I feel like it really should have. It should have clipped in there to give it that little extra sense of stability. And I'll bring it back to Cheetor with that, because in Cheetor's robot mode, his robot arms, the ball joints are on these little pegs, almost. You know what I'm talking
The
about,
little
right,
mushroom
Dakota?
pegs, yeah, little
The little
mushroom pegs that
mushroom
go into the
pegs.
chest.
Yeah, and I wasn't really a fan of that either. To the point, like
Yeah.
I won't transform my Cheetor again, because to me, like I only want to buy these figures once because of how perfect they are. So, and it's not that I'm against playing with these figures. I will pose them until, you know what I mean, for many, many moons. But I don't want to mess anything up. And when I get them in that pose and they enter the detolf, I don't want to bring them back out, because when I get them in that pose and they're in the detolf, like I was saying this on Stasis Lock just before, these Masterpiece figures, they garner so much attention when you walk into my collection room. Like, it's the first thing that people notice.
All right. Yeah. So that's interesting. Yeah. So that's good. That's good. I'm usually the same way when it comes to some of the MPs, or even just the more expensive stuff in general. That's why I kind of still like collecting the chug, because you can mess with it without much fear of like breakage or anything. But these expensive pieces, you don't want to manipulate too much just because of that fear of breakage, and it's always there.
I agree. And there's also that higher price tag investment too.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. That's the whole
I've
thing.
always thought it was funny that I'm the exact opposite. The more expensive the piece is, the more I want to mess with it and see if it's actually worth it. If it's something that I made a smart choice by spending my money on. That's like, with Primal and Cheetor, I almost always mess with my test shots. And they were far and above more expensive than the retail versions, but I want to make sure that I spent $300 on the Cheetor test shot. I spent $550, I think, on the Primal test shot. Like, I'm gonna get my money's worth out of them, messing with them, playing with them, doing whatever.
Yeah.
And that's very much how it is with Dinobot. I spent a little less than 200 a unit on them. So
yeah, my only other con would just be the instructions. The instructions are god awful at some points. And
I'm sure if we could read Japanese, we would have known exactly what to do. Like,
that's
what it
probably
is.
something.
There was even like an amendment.
Visuals.
What was that? There was an insert in there. It's like an amendment to the instructions involving the tail, but the hell if I know what it was talking about.
The way I deciphered it, because you see like the way the two arrows point both ways. It literally just wants you to wiggle and pull until it comes out, like just wiggling it back and forth until it it's ready to
I mean,
pop
I
out.
figured that out, but that's not what I took from that piece of paper.
I just stuck my thumb underneath and put pressure all around it and just kind of pushed and wiggled and pushed and wiggled like that was.
I'm not pushing and wiggling on a $200 figure.
But that's
you
the
never
thing.
know
That's
if
the
you
thing.
might.
It's like
You never know. You might snap something. That you're not
right.
supposed to.
We're so accustomed to actual fragile $200 pieces. That I think that's the mindset. But obviously you don't manhandle that joint. Like, that's of all the things I did manhandle, it wasn't the tail.
Yeah.
But just common sense, and like these are made with a high standard of plastics, and even though the shoulder thing is messed up quality, I think that's due to whenever it was assembled being pinned and not straight whenever they shot the pin through, so it caused that warpage. But I got a whole video on that, so if anybody wants to check that out, I don't want to spend 30 minutes explaining it again.
It's interesting to hear though, Ty, because I always thought the Takara like instructions, even though like none of us read Japanese, I always felt like they were pretty easy to follow. So to kind of
it was easy to follow for the most part, but there's this one specific area that gave me so much trouble, because you had to align everything perfectly in order for the tabs to line up to the ports. And it was when you're enclosing the chest, like the back part into the chest, there's a tab on each side that goes into a port on each side of the chest, and it has to fold together perfectly. And in order to do that, you have to fold up the dino arms perfectly and fold them into the back. And I found that really, really hard to do. Well, maybe I wouldn't say really, really hard, but it was difficult for me, because Like when you like lining it up just perfectly, there's certain ways that just doesn't bend. You know what I mean? And it was
See,
almost like it was asking me to do that.
it's funny because like that's the part that I found the easiest. The part that I found the hardest was where the outer like thigh parts for the dinosaur legs go.
Oh, really?
But yeah, like but actual folding the whole chest piece around, I was like, oh okay, so you just rotate the dino arms here and then accordion them down, and there's all these different hinge joints, not just in those flaps, but from the base of the figure's waist to the top of his back to the front of his chest, because it all folds over on itself. That you utilize all those joints and it all comes together. It's like you're kind of weary at first because you see the way that those side pieces are folding, but then you realize that it all comes down at the angle it needs to, just as easy as could be. It's crazy.
Sounds like that's what's called that masterpiece moment some people speak about, like when they transform the masterpiece figures.
The whole figure has a masterpiece moment. Like there's nothing about this toy that I've seen on any other figure. Like nothing.
That's nice, man. That's nice. All right. So you guys brought it up earlier. So I know initially a big deal was made about the price when the figure was announced. So I know most US based e-tailers have the figure priced at about $249.99. But, savvy gentlemen like yourself, I'm sure were able to secure this piece for a much better price. And same thing with the Beast Wars Megatron. The way the figure looks aside, I think that's retailing for $320 here stateside. And of course, you could get it cheaper elsewhere. So what are your thoughts on the pricing of these latest masterpieces? Do you think that the prices that they're charging are justified? These retail prices that we're seeing?
I think it's the cost of doing business for so long, just as Transformers fans in general. You'd know perfectly, like nothing's ever good enough to the general public. You get a figure and it's not, 100% tune accurate, or it's not 100% G1 or 100% this, 100% that. People are always complaining that there's improvements that need to be made on literally everything. Well, now Takara is stepping up to the plate and giving you these improvements, but that's the cost of doing business. You want the extra ratchets, you want the extra posability and articulation, you want better paint, you want better sculpting. Well, that doesn't come cheap. If that's what you want, that's what we'll give you, but you got to be ready to play the game and, pay the cost of admission. Mm-hmm. So that's where I stand on that. Like if it's the same, I'll treat it the same way as voting. You can't complain about a politician if you didn't go to the polls, or if you didn't go to vote on the day of the election. You know what I mean? You have no place to complain about who's in office if you didn't do your part. And if you're not going to stand up to your word, like this needs to happen, then you're going to back out because, well, that's the cost of doing business. You have no place complaining.
I hear that.
I would say at first, just looking at it, at first the price was somewhat staggering. I wouldn't lie about that. I mean, I spent three-quarters of a large, little Stasis Lock joke there. For my Dinobots, and coming out to 190 something a figure. That is, that's for a single figure. Yeah, I mean, granted, I'm accustomed to spending that kind of money on single pieces between exclusives, prototypes, and things like that. It's not something that I think I'm a little numb to it. But looking at it from that outsider who just mostly picks up $15 to $20 retail toys, like, okay, you're looking at 10 times that price now. But seeing what we get, even before getting it, just seeing what is included with that, I found it to be absolutely worth it. And a lot of people are going to get on their high horse and, with their sword and everything and say, oh, well, Takara's price gouging us. And I don't think that's the case. They switched factories. Like you're going to pay $400 for a doll, but you can't pay $200 for one that transforms and does other stuff. That's a whole different argument in and of itself. But what we got out of this $200 release, perfect. I feel like it was dead on the money. Even at $250, I think it's dead on the money, worth what you're paying.
Yeah,
you're getting more now than what you used to get. You would get the figures that were just the base plastic color, and you'd have paint apps where they needed to be. But now the entire figures are covered in paint. Dinobot is covered in paint, or he's at least covered in some kind of a finish.
Mm-hmm. From the pictures I've seen, it does look that way. He looks incredible.
Yeah, and that adds to it.
And something worth noting, I think, is that not a single Beast Wars Masterpiece figure as of yet has been knocked off. I don't believe they will KO the Beast Wars Masterpiece figures because the engineering is so tough, and with the way that they're painting their figures now, I don't think KO companies can do it. I don't think it's possible. And you
I
got
don't, yeah, I don't
you'll
think they
always
can
have
replicate it.
you'll
I'm
always
glad.
have your 30% of the community that'll go for that, or say that they'll wait for the KO, but I don't think it's possible. Which is another cost of doing business, right? A lot of people are really against the KO market, the knockoff market, and now you have a product that cannot be knocked off, and that was Takara stepping up their game. And yeah, it's just the cost. Like I keep saying, cost of doing business.
No, that's interesting that you brought it up though, because that's actually it was going to be my next question. We see so many KOs out there. So, do you think that the proliferation of so many fucking KO transformers being produced, and it's not necessarily Beast Wars, just everything out there, like in general, it seems, is it starting to affect Takara's bottom line, resulting in these higher prices, or is it just something like you guys said, we could just expect it to happen over time, with inflation and like you said, technology gets better, we're getting more accessories, more paint, the things that we ask for. So do you think that the KOs are having any effect at all on the current market?
I would like to touch on that first and use a few comparisons. So first, the way Japan typically handles that pirate market. I don't know if you've ever tried to buy like any Japanese exclusive, and be it animation or a movie or something like that. But the price is staggered, and it's priced that way because they know it's going to be stolen. They know it's going to end up online, and people are going to download it. So they're bypassing those projected numbers. The Beast Wars Second and Beast Wars Neo box sets, I think, were like 250 a piece out of Japan whenever they released them last. And I mean, that's granted, you're getting two full series, but that's still,
That's a lot of money.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But like so that's kind of how typically Japanese companies view the pirated market from a toy perspective. And let's take a look at things that are going into these newer masterpieces, like more parts, more paint, a whole new paint method that like as of right now cannot be replicated. That's why we don't have the Cheetor. That's why we don't have the Primal. The KO companies were like, yeah, we're doing this and we're gonna fix Cheetor's back legs, and then shit, we can't paint the spots on it. So like it's that's where those projects die, is when it gets to the final finish. But then you also look at, like, you wanted to, you talk about inflation. Shadow Panther coming out is roughly right at $10 more than Cheetor, and it's an exclusive. As far as inflation from a year and a half ago perspective, but as an exclusive, also, it's. I think inflation plays a little part in it, but I think what most of the part that's being played is the new methods that they're using to ensure that they can't be knocked off. Not necessarily bypassing it altogether and, we'll go ahead and get our money this way for it. I think they're giving us more, and to like I said, to ensure that it couldn't be knocked off. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, I don't. I think maybe the KO market had a hand to play in their decision to step up their game as far as like engineering and painting and sculpting and the way they're doing things now. But I think a huge part of it has to be just community. I don't want to say community backlash, but community feedback, because they have released products that have gotten bad raps before, just because people didn't like it, or they were at fault and the quality wasn't there, or the paint wasn't there, and so on and so forth. And I feel like they're stepping their game up because Takara especially, they care about their brand, they care about Transformers as a whole, and they want to give collectors and fans the figures that Takara feels we deserve. And it was just recently that they decided to just coincide with what Hasbro's doing and not do not add the extra paint apps and go that step further as far as, detail and quality and stuff. But for many years, Takara always put their best foot forward, always. And I think you're seeing more of that with the Masterpiece line. They're putting their best foot forward because I think they just take pride. They take pride in their product, because they know this is a brand worth standing behind. And when you have a fandom as fickle and as loud as the Transformers fandom, especially, you have to sit back and you have to make a choice. Do I want to keep going the way I'm going, or do I want to improve and give the people what they want. And I feel like they're stepping up to the plate and they're doing that. And the only backlash you're hearing now is that it's the price, which all comes back to it's just the price of, it's the cost of doing business.
Yeah.
And I've been doing my part to publicly clue people into other ways they can buy these figures than just TF Source and Big Bad Toy Store. I have several people who I called out on Instagram or social media for like, hey, you can get it here and it's cheaper. And then, some time will go by, then they'll message me and they'll be like, what was that site where I can get it cheaper? I've been going back and forth with this one guy who he messaged me and he's like, where can I get it? And this was like the day before it shipped. And I was like, well, we got it on Amazon Japan, but I think that ship has sailed. But you can get it on some other sites. And he wound up getting it on HLJ, and he got it a couple days after I did. But there's other ways to get it, and you got to spread this information, or else they're just not going to sell as many at that higher price. The higher the price, the fewer they're going to sell.
And that's something to consider too. Like a lot of the complaining about the price is just based on ignorance, not knowing the not more accessible, but the accessible platforms at a cheaper price that you can get these figures. Because like Dakota said, he paid $192.55 per figure, and he got 4 of them. You know what I mean? And that was shipped to his house in 2 days, and we all got them the same day. Chris got his first, I got mine in the middle of the day. Exactly.
Yeah, it's making sure you know what spots that you could go to get them, and also getting it on time, not waiting to the last minute and stuff.
Exactly. And it's all about educating yourself on the different platforms that are more beneficial to you as a collector. Because money, you gotta be honest with yourself. In this fandom, in this hobby, money talks and bullshit walks. So if you're about your money, you don't jump on the boards and start complaining and hoping that they bring down the price for you. You do your research and you go find where it's cheaper. And that's what we've done. We've been trying to spread that. You know what I mean? And it's nothing against the e-tailers of North America, but when it comes to especially these Beast Wars Masterpiece figures, money talks. You go where the money's talking to you. And for us, it's overseas. You go straight to the source. Go to Japan.
Yep. Nobody's ever gonna complain about saving $1, man. Trust me. $1 saved is $1 earned, and you're saving a significant amount, definitely by going overseas compared to the retail prices here. Clutch, what do you think about it overall, though? Like, happy with the price that you paid for the figure in accordance with what you got?
Well, I'm the negative guy, so I got one of them. I'm not going to transform him too many times, if at all, and I'm going to put him on the shelf. He's going to look great. It's almost like it is Doll Life, even though he does transform. He has some softer goods on him, I guess, all the scales and all that. Well, whatever. I don't know. I don't know if he's worth, to me, $196 shipped, because I just think of all the other things I could do with about $200. The things I could buy, the places I could go, all that other stuff that $200 could have gone to, but instead it went to this, and there he is. He's going to be on the shelf. I think that's not a
Masterpiece Dinobot thing. That's a collecting thing as a whole, if that's what you're considering when buying stuff.
Yeah, but there's not too many Masterpiece, either Takara or third-party figures, that are up at that price point. At least not ones that I want. I don't know.
That's true.
It's expensive. It's not a cheap thing to get. It's definitely a different league than buying things off the shelf, off the peg. One of the guys on our show, he was out, like completely out with the price of this Dinobot.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, it's understandable. You know what I'm saying? Like, sometimes you have to have the piece in hand and experience it for yourself before you might be willing to go down that rabbit hole, so to speak, because I held off on Masterpiece for a long time because I'm like, man, these cars, they're the same size as these Chug figures and they cost $80 and $90. Like, why? But then, when I eventually dip my toes in those waters and you get the piece in hand, I'm like, okay, now I understand. It's definitely not the same thing that I'm paying $15 for off the shelf, so
yeah, absolutely.
I get it, I get it. But then, people's what they're willing to pay and what they can pay is different.
So I was in for this Dinobot we didn't even know what the price was going to be really when we were ordering it on Amazon Japan. We just knew it was going to be cheaper than $250.
Yeah.
I was I was in for this Dinobot because it's what I'm doing. I'm getting new beasts. I'm putting this Masterpiece Beast Wars shelf together more quickly than other series. So it seems they're kind of cranking these figures out all of a sudden. But I don't think, for me, having it in hand justified the price any more than just the images we saw. Getting it in hand doesn't make me go, okay, yeah, it was worth $200. Or if I didn't buy it and I was messing with somebody else's Dinobot they got in hand, that wouldn't have made me go out and buy it immediately, even if I could still get that $200 price point.
Okay. So that's interesting. So like, so you just didn't get like that wow factor from it, I guess. Not like these other two.
I don't know what figure I really could buy and get that wow factor. That's just me as a collector, though.
Yeah, Chris is really, really hard to please, it seems.
Yeah.
No, but I hear what he's saying though, because when you think about, like you said, all the things you could get inside, it definitely is a collector's problem. Building the model kits and stuff, those Gundam kits, the master grades, you could get a pretty decent amount of those for the price that he paid for that one figure, and you get accessories, you get articulation, the shelf presence is probably just as good, if not better, in some cases. So it can be argued. It's interesting.
Yeah, I will. In some, I'm as a Gundam collector myself as well. Like I will argue that in some cases it is better, but it's with Gundam. There's so much more variety, right? Like there's so many different kits. There's so many different Gundams as a whole. Well, not to mention you put those together yourself. That's the whole appeal to Gundam kits, is that you put them together yourself, and there's that personal aspect of investing your time and making that thing your own. Whereas this, with Dinobot, it's with Dinobot specifically, we were already invested. The investment was there from when we were kids. It's the same as every collector. You buy what you're invested in, and the investment was already there for Dinobot. And I feel the price was justified because the amount of love. Like I urge you, if you're not going to buy it outright just yet, but find someone that has it. Go put your hands on this figure. Run your fingers across the sculpting. Look at the paint and just really admire the figure for what it is. And I'm curious to see if you feel the same way, because I'm curious to see if you will feel the love and the attention to detail that went into making this figure for fans.
We'll find out in a couple weeks. I'll bring it with me to NJCC, and Jose can mess with it there. Just don't manhandle it.
Nice.
Don't even try to transform it.
I was gonna say, like, I will absolutely bring mine to TFCon Chicago. The one that did have that's right.
Pitch that.
Yeah, okay. So TFCon Chicago, for those that do have Masterpiece Dinobot, we're doing a Dinobot squad pick. Everyone who's got a Masterpiece Dinobot, bring it, and we're gonna put them all together. Chris has got toe tags to make sure everyone gets to leave with the Dinobots they came with, as they say. And it's just going to be an ignorantly expensive picture, and so they're all going to be on display. And we're still kind of working out what we're going to do with that squad pick. So I mean, it's basically kind of like the group pick, but instead of members, it's a toy that members would have. And it'd be be really cool, but also to kind of so people can have something to remember that after the picture is taken. I'm going to go home and I'm going to alter it up, put logos on it, and the thanks to everyone who's done it, and I'm gonna have 11x17s printed up and mailed out.
Nice.
And that's all on my dime. So that way people can kind of have that, remember it, and be like, oh, remember TFCon Chicago in 18? Everyone, had all these freaking Dinobots, and we took this big picture.
That's
the
cool.
the real Dinobots.
Yeah.
No KOs, not one KO in that picture.
So it's something I think would be fun, and for other Beast Force fans in the realm, and not necessarily in the realm, but maybe also out of the realm.
Just for fans of Beast Wars, fans of Masterpiece, and just fans of Transformers in general.
Is that the new
fans
show on the Cool Table Network, Out of the Realm? It's just like I don't even want to say who's on that show.
But yeah, man, I think that would be a blast. It'd be cool to kind of have people in on. So I'll if anyone's interested, for people who maybe wouldn't have it by the time TFCon does roll around, I'll bring I don't want to say it's the busted one, but the one with the QC issue, and I'll let people kind of mess with that, see how they like it.
That's awesome,
Yeah,
man.
for
That's
sure.
awesome, and that's a cool idea. That's a cool idea too. Like just like you said, giving some people a memory, to have, at the show. I think that's
I'm
pretty.
surprised there isn't test models for people to play around with at these shows. Personally, like I went to TFCon there in Toronto, and you see them behind all these glass cases, and that's fine. But I feel like it would be a huge benefit, not only to the general public, but to these companies especially, to let the fans get a couple minutes of hands-on time with these figures,
Well,
and
Tyler, it
maybe
only takes
take a
one
little bit
sweaty, and
of.
then it's broken for everybody.
That's
Yeah.
true, but you take a little bit of feedback. You know what I mean? As a company, you take a little bit of feedback on where you could improve on this figure, what could be a benefit, or just if the figure's good, then you just say the figure's good, whatever's whatever, right? But I feel like that could be a benefit to have those meet up and test the figure, get that hands-on test. You know what I mean? That's
Yeah.
kind of a little bit removed from the conversation, but
No, I think it's probably up to the retailers that are at the show if they want to, open up and let you manhandle a copy and stuff like Hung and Go, like at NJCC. He would do that. He would have all over his table just the third party figures that you could mess with. And to me, I think that's a brilliant sales tactic because I'm sure it led to a lot of sales. So a lot of figures on that table. I'm like, oh, this is nice. A figure I would have never thought about buying before. So it works for sure.
Yeah.
All right. Just to wrap up the conversation, it was nice to hear your thoughts on the new piece that came out. So what Beast Wars character are you hoping that they announce next?
That's tough.
Man.
I'm gonna
That
say
is
Pterosaur because I really like Pterosaur. Don't know why.
I'm if it was a Predacon, I'd be hoping it was Pterosaur too. I'm a firm believer. You get the big ones out of the way. Pterosaur would be a big one, not so much in size, but just as with engineering, parts count, so on and so forth. Get all the big ticket items out of the way so that all the smaller ticket items can just roll through with no hassle whatsoever.
Nice.
And
I
would say Pterosaur as far as Predacons go, but as far as Maximals, I mean, there's really only two left from the main cast before your Stasis Pod characters, and I would love one of either Rat Trap or Rhinox. I feel Rhinox would be a big ticket item, but Rat Trap would be a really good break for my wallet. So
especially after that Megatron.
Exactly. Well, I got pros in all of them, but I have a feeling it's going to be a Predacon next, just to kind of even out the playing field.
All right, cool.
See, I'm also like kind of on the same page as these guys. Like I think it's definitely a Pterosaur. Like for next. As far as Predacons go, for sure, and it's one that I'd love to see. There's always that possibility that it's probably gonna be Waspinator, maybe.
I think it'd be Waspinator before Pterosaur, simply because he was more of a fan favorite character, just because of the comic relief that he brought, and he was a mainstay throughout the whole series. He didn't, spoiler alert, die after season 1,
or get a new body.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think realistically though, the next Predacon we see would definitely be Pterosaur. I'd be hard pressed for it to be either Scorponok or Waspinator or even Tarantulas, because I think it's just because he's got that flying factor, that aerial animal thing going for him.
Yeah.
And you get to use your Dinobot stand.
Or they get to throw another one in there and raise the price.
Right. And but as far as I think Rat Trap's going to be the next Maximal. He was on the short list. There was a short list of characters that they were going to do before it really took off and became the success. Because if I'm not mistaken, Dinobot sold out almost everywhere. In Japan, as far as Japanese e-tailers goes, I'm sure you can go into a shop or something. But
yeah,
I think the next one. I think the next one will probably be Rat Trap, and I would love for it to be Rat Trap because there's so much display and picture taking scenarios you can have with Dinobot and Rat Trap.
Just with those two alone.
Just with those two alone, because I mean they were always either scouting, for Energon together, or they were always fighting and bickering. From season all of season 1, that was the deal. So that's why secretly I think Rat Trap is next. But if it is a Predacon, my money and my heart is on Pterosaur, without a doubt.
Nice. Yeah. Pterosaur got the clean sweep from all of y'all.
We would take any of them, but yeah, Pterosaur.
Absolutely. Yeah, if it was Rat Trap, maybe we'd finally figure out what that peg on the back of Primal's for.
It's a Rat Trap.
Right? Or even the peg in his arm. There's and we saw that with Cheetor, and like what we're getting with Shadow Panther, the communicator accessory.
That was an interesting decision by Takara. I will say, why would you give Shadow Panther the thing from the show that should have been with your initial release of the show character? I mean, it's a selling tactic, of course, but
honestly, I can't help but wonder if it's whenever the prototype came out, there was a lot of hype that was drummed about that canceled accessory. People were talking about the communicators, wanting the communicators, and that had to have been in more than just the North American aspect of the collecting community.
And I wonder if that's why we got the accessories we did with Dinobot, like the eye firing laser and the golden disc and the stands and the adapters and the figure stand itself. Why we got so much more accessories to allocate a variety of what we can do with these figures. I wonder if they heard us, and that's why they're including it with Shadow Panther, and why they're proceeding with like Dinobot, and with Megatron coming up. It's announced he's got that one rifle from that one episode where he's walking around with jungle music and hunting the Maximals that are stuck in beast mode, and he's got the toothbrush for his dino arm, and so on and so forth, right? I wonder if they heard that, and that's why they're giving us the extra accessories now.
I can't help but wonder, to kind of go back to Rat Trap, like finding out what that pegs for. Like Rat Trap would be a small enough release where they could pack in all of these extra things, which kind of makes me think Rat Trap would maybe be last too, because you would think he would come with some stuff for Rhinox. So I don't know, but to kind of help offset maybe the price of production for what they'll be, having all these accessories that didn't make it for Primal, and then assuming for Rhinox. And I could see a pistol coming for Dinobot, the actual handgun that he used. So we'll see.
Yeah, that's cool. We'll see. And and it's cool that they do that. Like, it's like I touched on earlier, the people that like to do toy photography, all those extra little bits and accessories is cool. But also for the people that might want to display their figures like that, they might want to have a Megatron in the tub display, so that the armor bits coming off helps with that, and all these other little bits that these figures come with. It just helps to set that scene in a way, and a lot of people are doing that with these little with the backgrounds that they have for their DTOF displays and stuff like that now. So
something I kind of forgot. I think we all kind of forgot it actually. Like, there was a piece that came with Dinobot that I missed it. I don't know if everyone else missed it, but I definitely missed it, and I was surprised whenever I opened it up to see it. But we got the golden disc, we got the adapter for the golden disc. It also came with a little stand where you could sit the disc in it, and it could actually be displayed.
Yeah, I have that. That's at the forefront of my my Masterpiece shelf in my
yeah. But it's something that I found as a surprise, because I didn't see it in any of the promotional images, and
it was transparent.
It was just well, I mean, you see the base pieces and the eye laser pieces, but it's invisible.
Yeah.
But I thought that shit was so cool that, if you didn't want him holding the golden disc, well, guess what? You can have it there for that display ability. But yeah, I'm sorry. Keep going.
Yeah.
No, that's sweet, man. That's sweet. That's awesome. All right, guys. Well, we'll wrap it up there. I really appreciate you guys jumping on and discussing the figure and Beast Wars in general. Really good time. So before we head out, just let's get some where you at and let the people know where they can find you on social media. So Ty, I'll start with you.
Well, I'm Ty Prime. I have an Instagram account that I have been using more recently, uploading pictures of all the random toys that I take pictures of. That's Ty_Prime. Otherwise, you can just find me on Stasis Lock at 7 p.m. every Wednesday night, where we talk about Beast Wars and Beast Wars accessories.
All right, Dakota.
This would be a great time to have Josh. You can find me everywhere at Primal Sabbath, and I also hang out with these fellas on Stasis Lock every Wednesday, where we talk about Beast Wars and Beast Wars accessories. Whoa.
All right, Clutch.
Find me everywhere at Bricks on the Dollar, and check out Stasis Lock as well as Building Up to It.
That's right. All right. So once again, thanks for hanging tonight, guys. Really appreciate it. As I always say, you guys are welcome to join me here every single week. So thanks again.
Absolutely.
Perfect. Thanks for having us. Yeah.
All right. Peace out. All right, guys. I hope you really enjoyed that. And I want to thank Dakota, Ty, and Clutch once again for joining me here and having a conversation here with me on Verbally Challenged. And if you guys enjoyed the conversation we had here tonight, be sure to check out Stasis Lock every single Wednesday night, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the Bricks on the Dollar YouTube channel. Definitely check it out. And guys, if you're a listener of the show and you enjoyed this conversation and you want to have a conversation with me here on Verbally Challenged, you're always welcome. Reach out to me on social media. You can find me all over at HarikenBx. That's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Xbox Live, and the PlayStation Network. All over social media at HarikenBx. If you want to follow a little bit more of my personal fitness page, you can catch me on Instagram at Diaz4Fitness. All right, guys, before we head out for tonight, just some quick shout outs. Remember to check out the Realm of Collectors. We have a website, realmofcollectors.com. We're on Instagram at Realm of Collectors, and we're on Facebook as a group, Realm of Collectors. Pull up a chair to the cool table. It's a hub for like-minded podcasts, including Enter the Realm and Breaking the Mold, Mondays and Tuesdays, respectively, on the Realm of Collectors YouTube channel. The only show to watch on Saturday nights, Plastic Fanatics, the Late Night Aftercast on Victory Saber 77's YouTube channel. Those 3 podcasts are also available in audio format on iTunes and Google Play. The rest of the shows on the cool table are Shattercast Uncut, Nerd Rage Radio, Toy Detox, Stasis Lock, Building Up to It, Fresh Communication, Beer and Bolts is 40K, and 8 Weeks. You can find the cool table on Facebook, along with links to all these other great podcasts. All right, guys, that's it. That's the episode. Thank you for the download. Thank you for the stream. Thank you for listening. I really, really appreciate it. We'll be back soon, real soon with the next episode. All right, so take care, stay safe, and peace out.